Hey, I watched your video on inventory. That was very helpful, by the way. Glad I could help. I've been having a problem that I need some help with. I seem to be running out of product a lot. After I place an order, within a couple of days, I seem to be out again. I see. Is it like this for all of your products? No, not all of it. Some stuff I can keep plenty on hand, but my hot items are harder to keep in stock. Well, let's start with some basics. Are you forecasting your sales? Well, sort of, yes. When it comes time to order your inventory, how far out do your projections go? Well, I've made my projections at the beginning of the year, and I've been going off of that. Well, my first recommendation is that you update your sales projections regularly. If your sales patterns are changing, you need to adjust your projections accordingly. When you order your inventory, you have to think about what inventory you have on hand, how much sales you're going to have between that point and when your shipment arrives, and then how much sales you're going to have between that shipment and the next shipment. So you need to be thinking 2 cycles out at least. That must be where my problems lie. What else can you tell me? Well, I'm glad you asked. Next, we need to look at Welcome back. My name is Randy Helm, and in our previous video, we talked about inventory. Today, we're going to talk about ordering inventory, things you need to think about. First, you need to project your sales volume in units of product that you're selling. There is often variability in this. If you make projections annually, that is not enough. It is a good starting place, but you need to update your projections a lot more frequently, especially if you are selling more or less than your budget or your earlier projections. Within a year or a month or even a week, you will see a lot of ebbs and flows. You cannot rely on a static projection. You need to monitor your sales and adjust your short-term projections accordingly. A normal projection is what you expect to sell. A high-end projection is that level of where the sales might be. It might not happen, but you should have an idea of where the high end is going to be. Also project a low end. If your sales are running low, you may not need to order as much. What's the lead time? How long from the time you place your order till the time you receive your product? There can be unexpected variability in this as well. From the time you order the product, it might take several days or perhaps a week to receive the product. Then that product needs to last you until you receive the next shipment. A normal lead time is generally the stated delivery time from your vendor. A high-end estimate would be if they're running behind schedule. You need to plan that. For instance, if you thought it was going to take 5 days, but they ran into some difficulties and it's going to take 7 days, what's that going to do to you? A low-end estimate is if they run ahead of schedule, but that is not likely to happen. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. So what about order frequency? Sometimes this can be dictated by your suppliers, sometimes not. If you have flexibility on this, you may play around to see what timing works for you and your business. If you can time this for when your business is at a lull, that would be ideal. For instance, if you are busy from Wednesday through Saturday, consider ordering between Sunday and Tuesday. You don't want to order too frequently. You don't want it to seem like you're just ordering all the time. And you don't want to order too infrequently either. If you order less frequently, you have to place larger orders, and it takes more space to hold that inventory. Also, the longer of time in between the orders, the more that you are at risk of fluctuating sales volumes. If you experience a higher sales volume for some reason, you may run out of product. If you have a lower sales volume, you're just sitting on excess inventory and not converting it into cash. Keep in mind that the goal of inventory isn't to sit on inventory. The goal is to sell it to your customers, turn it into money, grow your business. It takes time to count and order your inventory. As you know, time is money. Everybody's heard that. So each time you go through this process, it costs you money. You might have to pay an employee to order the product or unload the truck when it comes. Each order will cost you money. Storing that inventory requires available storage space. The more inventory you order, the more square footage you need. Also, if you require a controlled environment, such as in a refrigerator or a freezer, that can be very expensive. This is definitely a situation where you do not want to have a crazy high storage capacity. Here's a scenario for you. Suppose you order weekly. At the end of the workday, let's say Monday evening. When will the product arrive? Suppose your lead time is 5 days. The product will arrive and be ready to sell, meaning you received it, stocked it, labeled it if necessary, at the end of the day on Saturday. After you receive the product, you will have another 2 days until you order again. That would be Monday evening. And then that order will arrive in another 5 days. So each time you order, you need to think about how much product you will need to last you 12 days. That product demand will need to be satisfied by your existing inventory, plus what you will receive in 5 days. This is how it could look if you put it in a spreadsheet. Now let me walk you through this spreadsheet. Down the left, you have the days of the week. Going across, you've got inventory at the beginning of the day, projected sales for that day, subtotal. And then you have your order quantity. This is where you put in how much you order. The next column is how much you receive from an order. And then at the end of that is the inventory at the end of the day. Now over to the right, we have a few more columns. This here shows how much sales are happening between the time you order the product till the time you receive the product. And that's a 5-day lead time. The next column shows how much sales are going to happen between the time you receive that shipment till the time you receive the next shipment. And so that's a 7-day turnaround. You add those together, you get the next column, which shows 12 days. This column, inventory at order time, is just showing how much inventory actually is there at order time. The column deficiency is the difference between your inventory at order time and the amount of sales that you have projected. And so the last column just says order this much, which in this case is the 385. So we're going to add the 385 in to the order quantity on Monday, and then we'll have 385 appear as a receipt on Saturday. And if you look further down at where that 0 is on the inventory at end of day, that matches up with the next Saturday, which is the end of the second cycle. So let's also talk about safety stock. In an ideal world, you would run out of product just as your next order of inventory came in and was ready to use. That's not likely to happen. If your sales are higher, or if the shipment takes longer to arrive, you might run out of product. If you do not want this to happen, you need to consider having safety stock on hand. How much is this? It could be a couple of days worth of projected sales. It could be more, could be less. You need to judge this based on your historical data. If you have plenty of storage space already, having a little extra inventory on hand might not be very expensive. This would suggest that having some safety stock is a safer way to go. If you are running tight on space, then obviously this becomes more of a challenge and more expensive. Instead of having more safety stock, you may want to explore the option of having special orders in between your regular order times if you start to run low on product. I showed you an example using one set of assumptions. Yours might be different, so you would need to adjust the formulas accordingly. If you have a lot of different products, you would definitely want to use the spreadsheet to track this, or even some inventory software to assist you in this. As a shortcut, many people use a rule of thumb for an amount to order to. This might be called a build to amount. For instance, you might assume that you always need to build up to 2,000 units at order time. If you have 750 units on hand when you order, then you need to order another 1,250 additional units to get to your 2,000 units, to get to your build to amount. In the example that I used, I presented daily sales amounts. Sometimes the data is presented in weekly sales. It's pretty easy to convert these formulas to weekly numbers. I would love to get your feedback. Please leave your questions and your comments down below. Thank you, and have a good day. Caleb, IBN.